The most horrifying incident in my life unfolded on a Christmas Eve, a memory that sends shivers down my spine even to this day. It was the year I turned 9, an age of innocence and belief in magic and miracles. The house was filled with the scent of pine and the tinkling sounds of Mom and I decorating our Christmas tree, eagerly anticipating Dad's return from work. As the hours ticked by, the cheerful glow of the Christmas lights seemed to dim, casting long, eerie shadows around the room. The joyous carols playing softly in the background twisted into a melancholy tune. Dad, who was never late, hadn't come home. A sense of dread began to creep in, wrapping its cold fingers around our hearts. Mom tried to hide her worry behind a forced smile, dialing Dad's office number repeatedly, but all we heard was the haunting echo of the unanswered phone. Christmas Day dawned, but the sun brought no warmth. The presents lay unopened under the tree, their colorful wrappings a stark contrast to the growing despair in our hearts. As days turned into a blur, the police initiated a search. Yet, every passing moment felt like a century, the silence of the house punctuated only by the chilling winter winds outside. We were living a nightmare, sleep evading us, food losing all taste. Our lives, once filled with love and laughter, seemed to be crumbling around us. One particularly freezing evening, I decided to light the fire to ward off the biting cold. As I approached the fireplace, a foul stench hit me, a smell so grotesque it made bile rise in my throat. It was coming from the chimney. Fear gripped me, but I managed to call the fire department. The burly firemen arrived, their faces grim as they prepared to break open the chimney top. Both Mom and I stood there, holding our breaths, praying it was just a trapped animal. The grating sound of metal against brick filled the room as they worked, each strike echoing the hammering of our hearts. When they finally pulled out the obstruction, it was not a dead cat or a bird. It was something far more horrifying. It was Dad. He was there, lifeless, dressed in a Santa Claus suit, his arms still holding onto the presents he had planned on surprising us with. He had tried to play Santa that Christmas Eve, climbing down the chimney with all the joy of the season in his heart. But fate had other plans. He had slipped, broken his neck, and died instantly. His body had been there all along, hidden in the shadows of the chimney. The room spun around me, the sight of my father's lifeless eyes etched into my mind. The realization hit me like a punch to the gut. There was no Santa Claus. The jolly figure who I believed brought joy and presents was nothing more than a cruel illusion. The memory of that Christmas still haunts me, a chilling reminder of the horrifying twist my life took that festive season. The scent of pine now reeks of death. The jingle bells sound like funeral tolls, and Santa is not a symbol of joy, but a specter of the most dreadful Christmas of my life. In a parallel universe, the North Pole was far from the charming land of candy canes and jingle bells. It was a chilling, upside-down realm, ruled by Santa Claus and his wife, both demonic figures who held the elves in cruel servitude. Inside the colossal, grotesque workshop, the enslaved elves toiled day and night. They crafted toys, not with joy and love, but with wicked intentions. Each toy was imbued with an invisible potion, a concoction so potent it could transform the innocence of childhood into violent mania. The elves reveled in their sinister task, their hollow laughter echoing through the icy halls. The demonic Santa and his wife supervised with malevolent glee, their eyes glowing with anticipation of the chaos to come. As Christmas morning dawned, children around the world tore open their presents, their excitement turning into horror. The scent of the invisible potion filled the air, seeping into their system. Their laughter morphed into growls, their smiles twisted into snarls. The joyous morning turned into a nightmare as children transformed into manic, violent creatures. From the eerie North Pole, the elves watched the ensuing chaos through a magical snow globe. With remote controls in their hands, they manipulated the transformed children, making them consume all the candy canes on their Christmas trees. Each bite triggered another transformation. The children morphed into miniature tornadoes, their destructive power uncontrollable. Houses were blown down, families torn apart. The world was held captive by the terror unleashed by the demonic Santa and his evil elves. Their laughter echoed across the North Pole, a chilling sound that drowned out the cries of despair. Amidst the chaos, a group of unaffected children discovered the horrifying truth. Filled with bravery beyond their years, they embarked on a perilous journey to the alternate North Pole. Their mission was clear: to put an end to the madness and free their friends from the elves' control. The journey was an odyssey through dimensions that defied all known laws of physics. The world around them disintegrated and reformed like an abstract painting in motion. The fabric of reality was bending and warping as they traversed the interdimensional pathway. It was as if time and space themselves were convulsing, creating a dizzying kaleidoscope of colors and shapes that made their heads spin. But they knew, no matter how perilous or strange the journey, they had a mission to accomplish: to bring an end to the madness and restore the true spirit of Christmas. As they arrived at the demonic workshop, their hearts pounded against their ribs. The workshop was a grotesque parody of a toy factory, the walls painted in hues of midnight black and blood crimson, a stark contrast to the pristine white snow outside. The air was thick with a palpable malevolence, a chilling reminder of the evil that resided within. The laughter of Santa, a sound that once symbolized joy and jollity, now echoed through the workshop as a sinister cackle. It was a sound that made the blood run cold, a sound that promised nothing but terror. In the midst of this horror, the children found strength in their innocence and pure Christmas spirit. They confronted Santa, Mrs. Claus, and the wicked elves in a chilling showdown. The tension was so thick, it seemed to seep into the icy walls, making them seem even colder and more intimidating. But the children were undeterred. With their innocence and Christmas spirit as their weapons, they waged war on the demonic forces. Their voices echoed through the workshop, cries of defiance that drowned out the evil laughter of Santa. Their final act of courage was to destroy the remote controls. As they shattered into a million pieces, the spirits trapped within the North Pole were finally freed. These spectral apparitions, victims of the cruel Santa, faded away with sighs of relief, their ethereal forms disappearing into the cold air. With every piece of the destroyed remotes, a child-turned tornado returned to normal, their wild eyes regaining the light of humanity. Simultaneously, houses miraculously rebuilt themselves, standing tall amidst the snow-covered landscape, a symbol of resilience and hope. The defeat of the alternate reality Santa and Mrs. Claus marked the end of their reign of terror. The elves, once wicked slaves, were freed from their influence and transformed back into joyful toy makers. The real North Pole, which had been frozen in time for what seemed like forever, was suddenly restored to life. It filled back up with genuine warm laughter for the first time in what seemed like an eternity. Upon their return home, the brave children were hailed as heroes. They had saved Christmas, restoring peace and joy to their world. Their homes were filled with the true spirit of Christmas: love, goodwill, and unity. Thus, in the face of unimaginable horror, these children proved that the power of innocence and love could conquer all. Even in an alternate, terrifying North Pole, the spirit of Christmas prevailed, proving that light could always be found, even in the darkest of times. The story of Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, is woven into the fabric of Christmas lore. His glowing nose, a beacon in the wintry night, guiding Santa's sleigh on Christmas Eve. But behind this heartwarming tale hides a spine-chilling secret. The luminous red glow was not merely to guide Santa. It was a collection of nightmare mist gathered from each household where children lay dreaming. As Santa delivered gifts, Rudolph would silently hover over each house, absorbing the ethereal fog that rose when nightmares stirred in the sleep of innocence. Each collection intensified the crimson light of his nose, a chilling symbol of his growing resolve. Rudolph, for years, had been the subject of ridicule and mockery. His red nose, a mark of difference, made him an outcast among his peers. The pain of being different festered within him, birthing a plan so eerie it would shake the very foundations of Christmas. Every Christmas Eve, as children nestled snug in their beds, dreams of sugar plums dancing in their heads, a silent storm unfolded. Rudolph, with his nose so bright, would glide through the night, gathering the nightmare mist, his nose glowing brighter with each house, a spectral lighthouse in the night. Once his eerie task was done, Rudolph would fly to a remote, snow-covered forest, where a mysterious wizard awaited. The wizard, with eyes as cold as the Arctic wind and a demeanor as chilling as the winter night, was the only one who knew Rudolph's dark secret. In the dead of night, under a sky lit only by Rudolph's bright red nose, they would begin a chilling ritual. The wizard would take the nightmare mist and release it into the air, chanting incantations that echoed eerily through the silent forest. The mist would twist and swirl, filling the air with a sense of dread. When the spell took effect, a wave of terror swept across the globe. In every corner of the earth, those who had once ridiculed Rudolph were plunged into their worst nightmares. The once jovial Christmas Eve turned into a night of endless fear. In New York, the gigantic Christmas tree in Rockefeller Center turned ghostly white, its once twinkling lights flickering like spectral eyes. The ice rink below froze over with an unnatural chill, causing skaters to stumble in surprise and fright. In London, the stockings that hung cheerfully by the fireplace twisted into grotesque shapes, their festive designs morphing into unsettling faces. The presents beneath the Christmas tree rustled ominously, creating a sense of unease that chased the families through their festively decorated homes. Over in Paris, the snow that blanketed the city began to turn inky black, staining the pristine white landscape with an eerie shadow. The Eiffel Tower, adorned with Christmas lights, cast a long, ominous shadow across the snow-covered city. The fear was so palpable, it hung heavy in the air, a suffocating fog that made it hard to breathe. Whispers of fear filled the silent night, a chilling symphony of despair that echoed around the world. The joyous carols that usually filled the air were replaced by hushed murmurs of concern, pleas for reassurance that fell on deaf ears. High above the world, Rudolph watched with a cold satisfaction. His red nose, pulsating brighter than ever before, painted an ominous glow over the scenes beneath him. He could sense the rising dread, the confusion, and the dawning realization that this was not a typical Christmas Eve. People were retreating indoors, their laughter replaced with hushed whispers. Families huddled together, their festive Christmas sweaters offering no solace against the creeping unease that filled their homes. Everywhere Rudolph looked, he saw the fruits of his actions, a world teetering on the edge of fear, a Christmas Eve turned eerie. The twinkling Christmas lights, once symbols of joy and warmth, now cast long, unsettling shadows, their cheerful glow a stark contrast to the apprehension they underscored. The world was finally tasting a sliver of his lifelong torment, understanding the sting of being different. As the night drew on, the murmurs of confusion gradually gave way to an uncanny silence. The world held its breath, longing for the break of dawn, praying for the unsettling spell to break. But as dawn broke, the eerie atmosphere didn't lift. Instead, it lingered like a ghost, leaving behind a world forever changed. Christmas Day was no longer a celebration of joy and laughter, but a grim reminder of the unforgettable night they had endured. Rudolph returned to Santa's workshop, his mission accomplished. His red nose, once a symbol of difference, now stood as a beacon of his triumph. The reindeer who guided Santa's sleigh was now a symbol of a chilling truth. Every year since that fateful Christmas Eve, as Rudolph leads Santa's sleigh through the night, his nose glows with a haunting red. It serves as a chilling reminder of the night when the world woke up to a different Christmas day. A day when Rudolph, the red-nosed reindeer, became Rudolph, the revealer of nightmares.